When people talk about the origins of greatness, they usually talk about genius, or luck, or timing, or an exceptional mind that seems carved out by destiny. But sometimes, the roots of greatness come from something much more human, something quiet, unglamorous, and deeply personal. When Elon Musk's mom, May Musk, spoke about raising a child who would eventually reshape industries and challenge the limits of what humanity believes is possible, she didn't describe a prodigy sculpted by privilege or unusual brilliance. Instead, she described something you may not expect. She described the ordinary moments, the messy moments, the small habits, and the mindset she deliberately nurtured. And when she spoke about them, it sparked a realization that has the power to change how anyone sees themselves, including you, because when you look closely at what she really said, it's not a story about Elon. It's a story about potential. It's a story about the raw materials we all carry within us, often without realizing their value. It's a reminder that what you are now isn't the limit of what you can be. It's an invitation to reconsider your own story from the inside out. May once said something deceptively simple: I let my children do what they're good at, and what they love. I didn't tell them what to do. I showed them how to work hard and be kind. At first glance, it seems straightforward. Almost too ordinary to hold any profound weight. But if you let it sink in, you start to see the layers underneath. Because growing up, maybe you weren't told that what you naturally gravitated toward had value. Maybe you were encouraged to be realistic, to play small, to stay safe. Maybe your passions were dismissed as hobbies, or your ideas were labeled impractical. Maybe you learned to silence the parts of yourself that didn't fit someone else's map for your life. Yet here was a woman raising one of the boldest thinkers of the century, and instead of pushing him into a predictable direction, she let him explore, get lost, get curious, fail, rebuild, try again. She didn't carve out a destiny for him. She helped him realize he was capable of carving out his own. And if there is anything to take from that, it's the quiet truth that you, too, were born with an inner compass, one you might have stopped listening to, one you might have buried under years of expectations, doubts, and obligations. Think about the things you loved as a child, the things that fascinated you without anyone coaxing you toward them. Think about the sort of person you wished you could become before the world taught you to shrink. Think about the moments when your heart tugged you in a direction, only for your mind to pull you back with fear. Because those whispers of purpose, no matter how faint, don't vanish. They wait. They linger. They echo inside you, no matter how much noise life builds around them. May didn't raise Elon to be an entrepreneur, or a billionaire, or an inventor. She raised him to be curious, to be persistent, to think boldly, to believe that solving big problems was a valid way to spend one's life. And more importantly, she raised him to understand that what you are passionate about isn't a distraction from your path, it is your path. You might be sitting here right now thinking that your start in life wasn't ideal, that the opportunities given to others didn't come your way. But May's story wasn't a glamorous one either. She grew up in a family that lived on the edge of adventure, often without traditional stability. She later became a single mother of 3, at times struggling financially, working 5 jobs just to keep herself afloat. She didn't have a safety net or a perfect plan, yet she kept moving forward. She modeled resilience, not perfection. And that resilience became the soil in which her children grew their dreams. So think about your own life. Think about the adversity you faced. Not in a way that frames you as a victim of circumstance, but as someone who has survived things that could have broken you. You've learned lessons you didn't ask for, but now carry. You've navigated storms you didn't see coming. And maybe you don't see your scars as strengths, but maybe they are. Maybe everything you've been through has quietly been shaping you into someone capable of doing more than you think. When May talked about Elon, she said something crucial: he always worked hard. That's the only thing I taught him: if you're going to do something, you do it properly. Hard work isn't glamorous. It isn't Instagram worthy. It's not the part of success that people brag about. It's the part no one sees, the hours in the dark, the quiet persistence, the repeated attempts. The failures that don't make headlines. The doubts that you wrestle with alone. And here's the truth: you have that same ability. Even if you doubt yourself. Even if you've stumbled more times than you can count. Even if you feel behind. You have something that can't be taught, something only life can forge: endurance. Experience. The willingness to get back up when no one is watching. The strength to dream when the world tells you it's too late. Maybe you don't consider yourself extraordinary. Maybe you've never been told that you are capable of remarkable things. But you don't need permission to rise. You don't need someone to anoint you as worthy. You don't need a perfect background, or a perfect plan, or a perfect moment to begin. Look at your life from a new angle for a moment. What if everything you've gone through, the confusion, the disappointments, the detours, weren't signs of failure, but signs that you are being shaped for something deeper? What if you've been underestimating yourself this entire time? What if the ideas you push away because they feel too big are actually the ones that could change your life? May believed in Elon long before the world did, but more importantly, she taught him to believe in himself. And that belief wasn't about ego. It was about responsibility. The responsibility to use your mind, your talents, your imagination, your effort to create something meaningful. To be a person who contributes, not just consumes. To be someone who wakes up and asks, what can I build today that didn't exist yesterday? Maybe you weren't raised in an environment that nurtured that kind of thinking. Maybe you learned to be cautious instead of ambitious. Maybe you learned to keep your dreams small so no one could laugh at them. But you can choose differently now. You can choose to become your own source of encouragement. You can choose to believe in your own potential, even if no one else fully sees it. You can choose to take risks, not reckless ones, but meaningful ones, because every time May spoke about her children, she emphasized something few people pay attention to: she didn't control them. She guided them. She trusted them. She let them explore. She didn't trap them in fear or impose her own insecurities onto them. She created an environment where the impossible didn't sound ridiculous, it sounded like a challenge worth attempting. Now imagine if you created that same environment inside your own mind. Imagine if, instead of seeing your dreams as unrealistic, you saw them as experiments. Imagine if instead of telling yourself you're not ready, you decided to learn as you go. Imagine if instead of thinking you need to have it all figured out, you accepted that growth is always messy at the start. You don't need to be a genius to change your life. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You don't need to know exactly where you're going. You only need two things: curiosity and courage. Curiosity to explore the things that interest you, even if they don't make sense yet. And courage to take a step toward them. Even if you're scared, people often misinterpret success as a straight, upward climb. But according to May, Elon's childhood wasn't a straight line. He was bullied. He felt out of place. He spent hours alone reading. He struggled socially. He didn't fit in, and that became an advantage. Because he learned early that being different isn't something to hide. It's something to embrace. Maybe you feel different too. Maybe you have ideas that don't match the people around you. Maybe you think in ways others don't understand. Maybe you feel like an outsider in your own life sometimes. But what if that difference is your superpower? What if your way of seeing the world is exactly what someone somewhere needs? What if your perspective is the missing piece to something important? The world doesn't change because of people who blend in. It changes because of people who dare to stand out. People who dare to think differently, even when it's uncomfortable. People who follow their curiosity instead of following the crowd, and you might be one of those people without realizing it yet. There's another thing May said that holds a quiet kind of wisdom: I taught them to be responsible. I didn't spoil them. If they wanted something, they had to work for it. Responsibility is not about pressure, it's about ownership. It's about deciding that your life is in your hands, and that while you can't control everything, you can control your effort, your attitude, your growth. You can control how many times you try. You can control what you learn. You can control how you respond to failure. So ask yourself, what aspects of your life have you handed over to fear? What dreams have you postponed because you think you're not ready? What goals have you labeled impossible because no one around you is pursuing them? You might be closer to your potential than you think. You might be one decision, one idea, one burst of courage away from a completely different life. But you must be willing to take the first step. Not because someone else believes in you, but because you choose to believe in yourself. Maybe no one told you that your dreams matter. Maybe no one showed you how far your effort could take you. But that stops today. From this moment forward, you can be the one who nurtures your potential. You can be the one who encourages yourself. You can be the one who pushes past fear and steps into possibility. Success doesn't require a perfect background. It requires persistence. Growth doesn't require clarity. It requires willingness. Progress doesn't require applause. It requires consistency. And fulfillment doesn't require luck. It requires alignment, aligning your life with your deepest values, your strongest curiosities, your truest self. Think about the things you've avoided because they felt too ambitious. Think about the version of you that you've been secretly afraid of becoming, not because it's impossible, but because it's powerful. Think about the goals that keep resurfacing in your mind, even after years of being ignored. Those aren't accidents. Those are indicators of the life you're meant to move toward. You don't need to become Elon Musk. You don't need to emulate anyone. Your journey is your own. Your potential is uniquely yours. Your dreams have their own shape, their own path, their own timing. But you can take inspiration from the idea that greatness often begins with something simple: permission. Permission to explore, to try, to fail, to rise, to speak, to believe, to create, to grow. And here's something else May emphasized: you have to do the hard work. You have to keep going. You have to make it happen. No one is coming to save you, but that's not bad news, it's empowering. Because it means no one can stop you either. No one can limit you except yourself. No one can take away your inner drive. You are the author of your story. Not your past. Not your circumstances. Not your self-doubt. Not the people who underestimated you. Not the voice in your head that whispers not yet. Your potential is still alive, still unfolding, still waiting for the moment you decide to unleash it. And maybe today is that moment. Maybe this message finds you at a time when you're ready to stop shrinking. Maybe you're ready to see yourself in a new light, not as someone stuck in uncertainty, but as someone becoming something extraordinary. There is nothing stopping you from learning new skills. Nothing stopping you from starting that business. Nothing stopping you from writing that book, creating that art, building that idea, transforming your body, changing your habits, renewing your mindset. You have the capacity to reinvent yourself more than once. You have the ability to rebuild your life from scratch if you need to. You have the resilience to rise after every setback, and the world needs people like you, people who dream, people who question, people who build, people who care. The world needs minds who think independently. Hearts that stay compassionate. Spirits that stay determined. You can be that person. You can be the reason something new exists. You can be the spark that inspires someone else. You can be the proof that starting small doesn't prevent you from ending big. When May Musk talked about her son, she wasn't glorifying his achievements. She was emphasizing his mindset. And that mindset is something anyone can adopt. It's not reserved for billionaires, or prodigies, or geniuses. It's available to anyone who chooses it, so let yourself dream again. Let yourself imagine again. Let yourself pursue the things that make your soul feel awake. Let yourself believe that your future can be bigger than your past. Let yourself be shaped not by fear, but by purpose. Not by doubt, but by curiosity. Not by limitations, but by possibilities, because deep down, you know you're capable of more. You felt it in quiet moments, those flashes of inspiration, those thoughts you've tried to push away because they seemed too big, too bold, too intimidating. But what if they aren't too big? What if they're exactly right? What if the fact that they scare you a little is the very reason they matter? You don't need permission from anyone else to begin. You don't need certainty. You don't need validation. You don't need a perfect plan. You only need a willingness to take the first step. And then the next. And then the next. Imagine yourself a year from now. Imagine what you could build if you started today. Imagine how much stronger your confidence would be. How much wiser you'd become. How much more skilled, capable, and grounded you'd feel. Imagine the momentum, the transformation, the quiet pride that comes from knowing you didn't quit on yourself. The life you want is not an illusion. It's a direction. And you are allowed to walk toward it without apologizing. Musk didn't raise extraordinary children by pushing them into greatness. She raised them by pushing them into themselves, into their strengths, their curiosities, their values, their responsibilities, their passions. And you can do that for yourself. You can be your own mentor. Your own encouragement. Your own foundation. Let the world underestimate you. Let people doubt you. Let circumstances challenge you. None of that determines your destiny. Your decisions do. Your effort does. Your courage does. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not unworthy. You are becoming, and if there is one message hidden inside everything Elon Musk's mom said, it's this: you don't know how far you can go until you start moving, so take a breath. Stand a little taller. And remind yourself that the power to change your life is already inside you. The spark of greatness that changed industries, moved rockets, and inspired millions is not a thing of destiny, it is a combination of curiosity, persistence, courage, and belief. And those exist within you too. Go build your future. Go explore your potential. Go become the version of yourself that you've been quietly dreaming of. The world hasn't seen your best yet, and neither have you, and now that you've allowed yourself to imagine a future that's bigger than your past, let's go deeper into the truth that most people never acknowledge. Greatness is not something you suddenly become. It's something you grow into, in layers, moments, choices, and tiny awakenings that happen quietly within you long before the world notices. What Elon Musk eventually built didn't begin with a company or an invention, it began with a young boy reading alone. Dreaming alone, trying things no one asked him to try. It began with a mother who didn't shape his dreams for him but allowed him to shape himself. You might not realize it, but you're already in the early chapters of your own transformation. Even if you don't feel ready. Even if life has been heavy lately. Even if you've made mistakes you're ashamed of. Even if you're still figuring out who you are. You're not stuck, you're in motion, even if that motion is subtle. Growth often feels like confusion at first. Purpose often feels like restlessness. Transformation often feels like discomfort. That doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're evolving. The people who change the world rarely know they're doing it at the beginning. They don't wake up with a sign from the universe telling them they're destined for something extraordinary. They wake up and take one small step. Then another. Then another. They try. They learn. They fall. They rise. They move forward even when their confidence wavers. They follow the threads of curiosity that others overlook. They protect their momentum more than they protect their comfort, and you can start doing that too. You don't need to have a giant vision right away. You don't need to know your final destination. You only need to begin exploring the things that make your mind light up, the things that make your heart feel awake, the things that feel like they could be meaningful even if you can't explain why yet. That tiny spark inside you, the one you keep dismissing, is not random. It's direction. It's guidance. It's something trying to grow through you. May once said that her children grew up seeing her work constantly, never complaining, never waiting for life to get easier. That kind of environment doesn't just produce ambition, it produces grit. It produces people who understand that obstacles are not signals to stop, but invitations to rise. And maybe you haven't always seen yourself as resilient, but think of everything you've survived. Think of the things you once didn't think you could handle but eventually did. Think of the storms you've walked through alone. Those weren't weaknesses, they were training. Your challenges might have felt like burdens at the time, but perhaps they were forging you into someone who can handle more than you realize. Someone who can withstand pressure. Someone who can adapt. Someone who can build something meaningful even in uncertainty. The future isn't reserved for the people who started perfectly, it's reserved for the people who start anyway. Maybe you've been afraid to dream because you've been disappointed before. Maybe you set goals in the past and didn't reach them, and now you hesitate to try again. But failure isn't a verdict. It's a path, one that every great mind has walked. Elon failed constantly. He made decisions that scared investors. Faced ridicule, lost money, struggled with impossible deadlines. But he didn't see failure as proof he couldn't succeed. He saw it as evidence he was trying something worth doing. You, too, are allowed to try things that don't work the first time. You're allowed to grow slowly. You're allowed to reinvent yourself. You're allowed to have seasons of confusion followed by seasons of clarity. Life doesn't move in straight lines. And neither does becoming the person you're meant to be. Imagine if you treated your dreams with the same patience you'd give to a seed you plant in the ground. You wouldn't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You wouldn't expect it to bloom overnight. You wouldn't panic when you didn't see progress immediately. You'd trust that effort plus time creates results. You'd water it. You'd give it sunlight. You'd protect it. You'd let it grow at its own pace. Your dreams need the same tenderness. The same patience. The same belief. One of the most powerful things May ever said about parenting and life was this: you have to believe you can do something, and then you have to work until it's real. Belief is not some magical force. It's the courage to try. To take the next step even when you're not sure where it leads. To trust that growth happens in motion, not in contemplation. Look at your reflection, not the literal one in the mirror, but the metaphorical one you hold inside your mind. Do you see your potential or your doubts? Do you see your possibilities or your past mistakes? Do you see someone capable of building a new life or someone stuck where they are? The way you see yourself shapes the way your future unfolds. And here's the beautiful truth: you can change that internal reflection at any moment. You can decide today to see yourself as someone capable, someone worthy, someone ready to rise. Not because the world has validated you, but because you choose to validate yourself. Because if you don't believe in your future, who will? May raised her children with the belief that kindness and work ethic matter. Not fame. Not money. Not recognition. These values aren't glamorous, but they are powerful. They build character. They build consistency. They build trust, trust in yourself, in your abilities, in your direction. You can start aligning yourself with those values now. Not by making a grand public announcement, but by quietly shifting your mindset. By doing one thing a little better than you did yesterday. By listening to your curiosity instead of ignoring it. By forgiving yourself for the times you fell short. By choosing progress over perfection. Your life doesn't need to transform overnight. It only needs to shift by a degree or two. Small shifts compound. Tiny habits multiplied over weeks, months, years. This is how lives change. This is how people become unrecognizable in the best way. This is how ordinary moments become extraordinary outcomes, but the shift must begin with you. And it begins with a choice, the choice to believe that your path matters. That your dreams matter. That your potential is real. That your story isn't finished yet. Think about the version of you who finally steps into your power. What do they look like? How do they walk into rooms? How do they speak to themselves? How do they approach challenges? How do they treat their aspirations? That version of you is not a fantasy. It's a blueprint. And you can grow into them one brave moment at a time. Maybe today your brave moment is deciding to try again. To learn something new. To reach out. To begin a project. To end a cycle. To take your dreams seriously. To trust yourself. To stop hiding. To start building. Maybe your brave moment is simply believing that you deserve a life that excites you. The world is shaped by people who honor their inner fire. People who follow their curiosity down uncertain paths. People who choose courage over comfort. People who don't wait for permission to become who they are meant to be, and you are fully capable of being one of those people. You have ideas that no one else has. Experiences no one else has lived. Dreams no one else can see. Strength no one else can measure. Your uniqueness is not a flaw, it's your advantage. It's the reason your contribution matters. It's the reason your future can look different from your present. Let that uniqueness guide you. Let it shape your path. Let it push you toward new opportunities and new versions of yourself. You are capable of a life you haven't even imagined yet. Capable of success you haven't tasted yet. Capable of growth you haven't recognized yet. Capable of joy you haven't allowed yourself to believe in yet, and everything begins with you choosing to see yourself not as someone limited by your past, but as someone empowered by your potential. Someone who can evolve. Someone who can rise. Someone who can overcome. Someone who can build something meaningful from where you stand now. When Elon Musk said the things she said, she wasn't describing a miracle. She was describing a mindset. And that mindset is something you can adopt today, right now, without anything changing around you. All you need is a new way of looking at yourself, not as someone who is behind, but as someone who is becoming, not as someone who is lost, but as someone who is exploring, not as someone who is stuck, but as someone who is gathering strength, not as someone who is ordinary, but as someone who is capable of extraordinary things when aligned with purpose and persistence. This is your moment to step into the possibility of who you could be. This is your moment to choose growth over fear. This is your moment to begin. And now, as you arrive at the final stretch of this message, take a moment to breathe, slowly, deeply, because nothing changes without awareness. Nothing transforms without presence. Nothing evolves until you finally pause long enough to hear the quiet truth inside yourself. That truth is simple, but it carries the weight of your entire future. You are capable of far more than you've allowed yourself to believe. Everything Elon Musk ever said about the way she raised her children points to a single, universal message, one that applies to you just as much as it applied to them. The world doesn't decide your limit. You do. Your beginning doesn't define your destination. Your past doesn't dictate your potential. Your missteps don't erase your chances. Your circumstances don't diminish your capability. You are not a final product, you are a work in progress, a masterpiece still being shaped, a story still being written, you might think you're late. You're not. You might think you've wasted time. You haven't. You might think others are ahead. They aren't on your road. You might think your dream is too far away. You haven't taken the steps yet to find out how close it actually is. Because the moment you decide to take ownership of your story is the exact moment your future begins shifting in your favor. If there is one thing to take from everything you've read, let it be this: you do not have to be extraordinary to start, but you become extraordinary by starting. Not by waiting. Not by wishing. Not by comparing your journey to someone else's. But by taking the next step, however small, however uncertain, however imperfect. Think about everything that has brought you here, not just to this message, but to this point in your life. The times you doubted yourself but somehow found strength anyway. The moments you wanted to give up but didn't. The nights when your mind felt heavy but your heart whispered, "Try again tomorrow." The dreams you buried but never really forgot. The ideas that visited you again and again, refusing to let you shrink them out of existence. Those moments weren't accidents. They were reminders. They were proof that no matter how tough things became, something inside you refused to quit. Something inside you refused to settle. Something inside you knew there was more waiting for you if you were willing to reach for it. And now here you are, standing at the edge of possibility, with the chance to choose differently, to believe differently, to live differently. Close your eyes for just a moment. Picture the version of you who never let fear dictate their decisions. The version of you who trusted their intuition. The version of you who didn't apologize for dreaming big. The version of you who didn't wait for permission to grow. The version of you who rises, again and again, no matter how many times life tests their courage. That version of you is real. That version of you is already inside you, ready to be claimed. Not in some distant future. Not after you fix yourself. Not after everything becomes easy. Right now, in this moment, you don't need to have everything figured out to move forward. No one ever does. But you need to trust that the path will reveal itself as you walk it. You need to give yourself permission to try. You need to give yourself patience to learn. You need to give yourself compassion when you stumble. And you need to give yourself every reason to continue. Even when doubt tries to pull you back, because the truth is, you are not defined by the things you fear. You are defined by the things you overcome. You are not defined by the moments you felt lost. You are defined by the moments you kept searching. You are not defined by the walls you face. You are defined by the doors you choose to create, and you are allowed to create as many doors as you need. Elon Musk didn't know she was raising a world changer. She was simply nurturing a mindset. Encouraging persistence. Modeling strength. Trusting the power of small beginnings. And that same mindset can live in you, if you choose to let it. You don't need someone to guide your hand. You don't need someone to open the path. You don't need someone to validate your potential. You already carry everything you need: curiosity, resilience, imagination, and the ability to grow. Your story doesn't end because you've struggled. It begins because you're still willing to rise. So let this be your moment of clarity, the moment you stop underestimating yourself. The moment you stop waiting for the perfect time. The moment you stop asking whether you're ready. The moment you look inward and realize that readiness is a decision, not a condition. You become ready by stepping into your future before you feel prepared. Whatever it is you want to build, create, discover, or transform, start it. Whatever habits you want to change, begin today. Whatever version of yourself you want to grow into, move toward it now, not someday. Someday is a thief. Someday takes your dreams and promises to return them later, but it almost never does. Trade someday for now. Trade hesitation for effort. Trade fear for curiosity. Trade self-doubt for self-trust. You have survived too much, endured too much, learned too much to stay where you are. There is a spark inside you that refuses to be extinguished. A spark that believes in more. A spark that is ready to become fire, so step forward. Even if your hands shake. Even if your voice trembles. Even if you're carrying old wounds. The world doesn't need a perfect you, it needs a determined you. A courageous you. A growing you. A becoming you, and when you take that step, you'll feel something shift, not outside you, but within you. You'll feel the weight of your old limitations begin to fall away. You'll feel the stirring of a new identity, someone who tries, someone who believes, someone who becomes. You'll feel the quiet confidence of a person who finally realizes that everything they need has been within them all along. This is your turning point. Not because of anything grand, but because you decided to see yourself differently. And when you see yourself differently, you live differently. You choose differently. You grow differently. Carry this truth with you: you are capable of building a life that once felt impossible. Not by being someone else. Not by following someone else's blueprint. But by honoring your own strengths, your own curiosity, your own courage. Everything ahead of you, the growth, the transformation, the success, the impact, begins with one simple belief: I can become more than I am today. Hold on to that. Let it guide you. Let it shape you. Let it ignite you. Your future is not waiting. It's calling. Answer it.